Welcome to We the World, heard exclusively or heard and seen exclusively on malcolmpresents.com. And I'm here with my co-host. I'm Malcolm Berman. I'm here with my co-host Yana Larson and our special guest Claire Laporte. Anyway, Yana, tell us about Claire.
Okay, thank you, Malcolm. And actually, our show is called Malcolm and We, as a project between We the World and Malcolm Presents. Anyway, our guest today is Claire Laporte, someone I don't know very well. However, we have been in similar circles because we both were involved with Ohio chapters working with the Poor People's Campaign. And even though we are both not on committees anymore, we still support the work of PPC because we must, and we want others to get involved as well. Claire is now somewhere in Canada, and I think she must be from Canada. I hope she can fill us in on that and how she came to the US and why she moved back to Canada. When I got in touch with her to see if she would be a guest, her reply was that surely there must be someone else more interesting than her. And I said, well, you were with the PPC and you're going to DC for the big rally on June 29th. And you said that you were too busy to chat because you were attending a women's strike. So right there, that's why I want to talk to you. And now you are here and we are happy and I get to meet you again. And yay, now you can let us decide if you are interesting, which of course you are, and tell us all about this activating activism you are doing.
Yeah,
Thank
well,
you, sir.
again, just to interject, We the World says, each individual person is their own unit, and a million individual people all of a sudden become a moving don't never downplay what you do because you're one of the important people.
Thank you.
That's right. And in fact, you were a
Thank you.
little late today because you were filling in on yet another activism project that you work on. And so very cool. Maybe you could just start a little bit by telling what you were doing, and then we can talk about the DC rally.
It was just a matter of the person who was responsible for picking up the breads from the bakeries today. It's a standard pickup. We have people that do Mondays, people that do Wednesdays, people that do Fridays. Their vehicle broke down. So I was able to run and get it, but I didn't anticipate having to get back in a timely fashion because I am driving one lone car amongst all the 6 million that are on the road. So I was a tad bit late. So I apologize for that.
That's a great service to offer. My parents used to do that too, and delivering food meals to people. They were always very involved with things like that. So that's great. You want to mention the organizations that you work with?
Sure. Within Toronto, I work with Food for Now, which takes care of the region that I live in, and also Toronto Cares, which is another emergency safety net for the unhoused as well as refugees and immigrants. And they both started during and prior to the pandemic, but the pandemic was a huge launch and of course a huge window into how much need was needed and how many people were in need of services and food and resources. And so these different organizations are intertwined in that the basic part they do is provide nutrition and food, as well as we bring toiletries and clothing, especially here in the winter. We bring winter clothing, boots, and we take care of, we do like odd things like what we call personal orders. So if you have a 10-year-old child that doesn't fit in at size 10, call out, we need a child size 16 or whatever. And without any questions, there's always a volunteer that'll either provide something or they'll go buy it. And some of the, like one young man who battles with mental illness, who is well set up, very proud of his tent. We have bricks and We set him up with a broom and a dustbin, and he gets paid by the locals, pocket money, to clean up whatever waste is on the street or doesn't make it into the recycling bins when you're waiting at the bus stop or whatever. And you know, he's taking pride in his little job, but we give them what they can accomplish and feel proud of without overwhelming them with regards to disabilities, mental capacity, and housing. So, and when you did reach out to me, I was doing planning. I had been planning with Toronto Cares. They took up the mantle for the women's strike. And the women's strike was held on the second anniversary of the fall of Roe v. Wade. It was a march and protest that was done in solidarity with all our American sisters on the day of the anniversary of when the law was struck down by the Supreme Court. So we happened to be in solidarity with 168 cities on the planet. We had about 25 cities in Canada that marched and protested that day in honor of our sisters who were protesting within the United States on June 24th. And so that's what
a question on that, which I am totally ignorant about. What is the law in Canada about abortion?
At present, we have abortion available through the National Healthcare System. We have all but one province that offers abortion. And again, abortion care is a huge umbrella. It's not simply the eradication of a fetus. It covers a lot of topics. It's healthcare. Yeah. I best explain it as you drive a type of car, I drive a different type of car, but it's called a car. Yes. So what the Supreme Court has struck down is the car.
Yeah.
And so what birth control and hormones and ectopic pregnancies and D&Cs are, they're all under that umbrella of abortion. All bits and pieces that would normally take place in an emergency room, because at that point, a lot of abortions are actually medical care, and but they're covered under that umbrella, and therefore, because of the lack of education with regards to the terminology, they're canceling abortion because they think abortion is one thing. So in Canada, we have access to it. However, we also have rising right-wing party who is reaching out to our evangelical churches, which we don't have that many in Canada. We're more Catholic, Anglican, Presbyterian. We do have some Baptist, and then, you know, we have Muslims, we have Jews, we have Buddhists, we have a whole mix of different religions. We also honor the fact that Muslims and Jews allow abortion as part of their religious practice, because they want to save the mother, and the fetus is until it draws breath is not life. So better to save the giver of life, the maker of life, the procreator, which is your female, your wife, your spouse, your mother, your sister.
Oh, who is probably a mother to another child too. And so, you know, disrupting the family by, you know, not taking care of the mother. Yeah.
Yeah. We have 41 million people now. We finally exceeded the population of the state of California. We were always tied for the longest time. And that's the joke. We're only as big as California, but land mass, we're actually bigger than the United States. And we perform less than 1 million abortions a year through that 41 million. Only 17% of them are hospital abortions. The rest of them are clinical or emergency abortions. And then the numbers are broken down by the provinces. Ontario and Quebec have the most, with Newfoundland and Labrador having the least. Again, it's all per capita. Ontario has the biggest population in the country. Quebec has the second largest population in the country.
Again, did you have to be a Canadian citizen to get an abortion, or can someone from the US come in, an American citizen?
Somebody else can come from the US and go to a clinic, they would have to pay. I'm not exactly sure what a fee is for an abortion, but the clinic fee is only $45.
But
Um,
it would be legal. So let's say people from Washington or Oregon or people up north can just go
yeah.
over the border and they avail themselves to an abortion legally.
Yes, it's not as simple as that. They'd have to jump a few steps, but yes.
Yeah.
And of course, the abortion would have to be if it's a non-medically required abortion, like you don't have you're not going to have a stillborn or you don't have a deformed baby that's not going to survive. Abortions here are usually under 20 weeks. We go to the end of the second trimester, and then of course all others are done basically to save the
Yeah.
health of the mother, to also save the organs with regards to the mother, because if you carry a baby full term that is already deceased, you could go into sepsis, you could lose organs, you could lose the fact that you might not be able to have more children after that. So it's basically to get them in for a D&C and take care of the problem that way.
Yeah, getting back to your collecting, food.
Yes.
As I said, I was working with a group. If I had another show on that's not current right now called Sid and Malcolm, and he had a
Okay.
group called Rock and Wrap It Up, which basically they collected the food from concerts and the stadiums for the ball games that were unused, the fresh food. I mean, not
Yeah.
not used, and donated to the food kitchens to
Yeah.
give out to the poor. And this was on a national basis in the U.S. But what
That's
they
impressive.
also but what they're also working on is in high schools and schools, they were collecting women's sanitary needs
Yeah.
because they said a lot of girls cannot avail themselves to this,
Correct.
and it's embarrassing to them,
Yeah.
especially when you're a young teen and your parents might not have really told you what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or have the money, because
You don't have the money.
your welfare checks, your food stamps, so to speak, do not cover personal hygiene. They don't even cover diapers for babies under WIC. So that's kind of backwards. Thankfully, however, our progressive governments here have made laws within the last couple of years to provide sanitary products in both women and men's bathrooms for all federal and government buildings, for one. And then most employers, as well as, like your big box stores, if you go into, like, I'm going to use Lowe's and Home Depot, for example, you'll be able to get personal hygiene products in the bathroom. Thankfully, we're at the point where it's no different than us providing toilet paper for you. It's, it's how your body works. It's how our body works. And we should have access to that as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they're now provided in federal government buildings. They're provided in both in male and female bathrooms.
Well, this was provided in public schools for
Yeah.
For girls, basically for girls or women, just experiencing that coming. I guess it would be depending on the person, but then it's like from 10 to 15 years old, from what I understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
It's sad.
Let's
There's
talk
nothing
about
worse than having a period at school and wearing
yes,
white pants. Trust me.
Yeah. I
something
can't.
that I can't relate to.
I,
But let's
I
talk
only
about
I only can imagine.
Yeah.
yeah, you can't even. But anyway, let's talk about the Poor People's Campaign too,
Yeah.
because that's how we met. And so where were you in Ohio? Were you in Cincinnati, or were you not even in Ohio? You were in
I
Kentucky.
was in Kentucky. So
Okay.
I
It is-
happen to do most of my volunteering in Cincinnati because it's the largest metropolitan area closest to which I lived, which is Northern
Mhm.
Kentucky. Northern Kentucky is actually a bedroom community for Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And the Cincinnati International Airport is actually in Kentucky. It's not even in Ohio, because there was
Oh,
no land available when they were proposing a larger metropolitan airport.
uh-huh.
So Mary Aguilera and myself are the
Yes, I
founding
remember
members
Mary.
of the Ohio Poor People's Campaign. We went up to Detroit in 2017, and we were trained by Reverend Barber himself, along with Reverend Theo Harris. And we launched from that point on. So we were working with other people who had joined from Columbus, from Cleveland, and but we were on the ground networking when the campaign started, and it grew from there. So we went from 4 people, 5 people, to our database is basically up to 9,200 people for the state of Ohio.
Which is great. And I also came to the PPC via Mary, and she's been on our show. Several people from the PPC have been on, like Robin Brown from Cleveland, with her Let Project. And my mind is going blank right now. I can't think of everybody. But so then you went back to Canada.
Yes, I moved back this past year. Because I am a Canadian citizen. My husband worked for a Canadian company, and so we got transferred and moved all over the United States for the last 35 years. And so it was basically time to come home, because I wanted to get reestablished with my family and friends. And consequently, I have one child that lives here, and I have one child, and my grandchildren live in Kentucky.
And then,
Okay.
now the question I always ask, what's the difference between an American and a Canadian? I never, I've known
A
people.
Canadian knows how to make love in a canoe.
Oh,
there you go.
I beg to differ with you in my experience. I won't go into any further detail.
I don't know. The difference is our outlook with regards to our social responsibility towards our fellow citizens.
Very good.
So we approach social services with a different mindset. We don't look at dividing the resources we have. And I'm not saying it's a perfect system, because we do have many issues that are still to be resolved, and many more that always pop up. But because we are a country of new immigrants, and we survive with immigration, we do not have a birth population enough to maintain this society. So we are always an open door, short of the paperwork and the filing and wherever you're coming from. So we tend to look at, and I'll use children, for example. So children, whether they are new immigrants, whether they are undocumented, or whether they are native born, have a legal right to attend school. So doesn't matter if they are undocumented, if their parents are not supposed to be here, by law, that child as a human right has to attend school.
Fantastic.
We don't and I'll give you an example. When we got transferred to Kentucky, they wouldn't even give us the blank forms till we proved that we had a residence in Kentucky. And we had moved from Utah. So they wouldn't even give us the blank forms to register our children.
Oh my goodness.
So, and our children were American born, but there's no question with that here. That's a human right.
It's a given. Yeah.
And it's a given. Our healthcare system is the same way. For the most part, prior to the pandemic, you had a 3-month wait period to become a recipient of our provincial healthcare system. Each province has their own entirely established medical system. We do not have a government-run healthcare system. We have a taxpayer-provided regional system based on what each province wants.
How many provinces are there?
There are 10 provinces and 3 territories.
What's the difference between a province and a territory?
It's the time of establishment and the location. So geography-wise, Yukon, the Iqaluit, and the Northwest Territories are basically attached to the North Pole, and they are very, very rural. They're very, very small, and very minimally populated. So we have a lot of our Inuit live in the north, a lot of our indigenous people live in the north, and then basically you have the provinces which are more populated. And as you get closer to the 49th parallel, that's where all the population is.
Yeah, not to seem like uneducated, but I'm actually uneducated. How close is the Yukon Territory to Alaska?
Right next door.
So,
Alaska actually is part of Canada. It's the end of it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right next door. The Yukon is immediately the first province or territory or landmass that is next door. You actually, if you are driving from Alaska, you have to go through the Yukon and then British Columbia before you get to Washington State and south.
So do you have to go through customs or whatever to
Yep.
on that part? Yep. Okay.
They'll give you a special permit to be on the road if you are carrying a gun, because you're not allowed to carry guns in Canada without a proper license, without a gun safe, without a gun lock, and without a background check. So you have to prove that you are a resident of Alaska or one of the lower states, and they give you a permit, but the gun is never to leave your vehicle, never to be left. You're not allowed to carry it on your person. It's basically a special permission that if you're driving. If you're flying, forget it. You're not bringing any guns through the Canadian system, but most American airlines will allow you to check them through a secure method if you're flying from Alaska.
Now, again, we're going a little far afield from your organization, but what is the immigration policy? Because as you know, in the U.S., we have this mass people, just coming over the border. Do you have the freedom of aliens coming in without
From your southern border?
unvetted?
Yeah, well, yeah, our southern border. Believe it or not, it's similar, but we have a smaller concentration of people that are coming through. And we just take them and bring them to a center where we process them, depending upon what they're applying for, whether they're applying for asylum, whether they're applying for legal immigration, because of the laws of the first country of origin. If they're coming from the US, they've already been in the US, they should have checked in the US.
Yeah.
The southern border is, we've been there with the Poor People's Campaign. We've marched on the southern border. It is not as chaotic as the media would have you believe. And actually, this past summer, there was a whole caravan of Trumpers that went down because they were taking it upon themselves to go and shut the border down. And when they arrived, their expectations completely changed, because what they had been told by the various media that they follow wasn't actually 100% factual. The other thing is your illegal immigrant face is a Hispanic person. Your southern border is not where the bulk of the undocumented immigrants come from. They come from Asia and they get off an airplane.
Yeah,
but it's unfortunate. It's the same thing as the myth of the poor person in the United States is a POC. The bulk of the poorest people in the United States are actually white. Exactly. But again, it's
white women.
What we're told to believe, what we fail either through understanding, lack of time, lack of education, because most people are impoverished. They don't have time to go and sit and read 10, 15 books on what is really going on. And, they take sound bites and absorb them as fact. And unfortunately, that's a myth.
Now, your particular organization, what is the name of it?
The Poor People's Campaign.
It's the Poor People Campaign. Is that you? The Poor People Campaign?
I'm a member of the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival.
So you are still with it through what? Through Canada, or through how?
I'm still attached to the Ohio campaign because we do not have a Poor People's Campaign chapter in Canada. Our
Okay.
politics as well as our policies are very different. Again, we still have, you know, a battle ahead of us as well. However, the Poor People's Campaign is fighting for rights that exist in Europe and Canada already. So, you know, again, your social services, your, getting back to children as an example, you have 6 weeks mat leave if you have any at all. We have 18 months. You can walk away from your job and still have a job to come back to, and you're also paid while you're taking care of your newborn. And when you're done, your husband can get the same, and you can tag team. So for 4 years, your newborn baby can have a parent at home.
Oh, wow.
So,
That's so
and that's all
cool.
covered under our social system. You get 75% of your salary, but your job is still guaranteed when you get back from your mat leave. We have a national daycare system that was launched 2 years ago, and it's based upon whether the provinces accept it or not. But it's a $10 daycare a day per child, and the rest of it is subsidized through funds from the provincial and federal governments. So you're basically paying $10 a day for your certified daycare per child. So if you have 4 kids, that's $40 a day. So you're not spending $3,000-4,000 a month per child.
That's amazing.
So we
Listen,
have lots of stuff.
I'm sorry I said that you weren't with the PPC anymore. I had no idea. I'm glad to know that you are. I still am peripherally too.
Yeah,
But I'm not
I flew. So I did the Women's Strike March on the Monday, the 24th, and I flew down on the 28th, and
Yeah.
I was there on the mall with everybody else. I do some of the paperwork, some of the research, some of the outreach, anything that I can get done on the computer to help Claire and Dottie and Monica and Joyce and David. And then we also have a new tri-chair from Cleveland that I met down there. So I do some of the paperwork. I do some of the outreach with regards to like they had a march in Columbus. So I literally contacted everybody in our database from Franklin County, and I do that kind of stuff. So I'm not on the CC anymore. I'm not a chair, but I'm still in the background.
Well, then I can say that I am too, because I still connect with everyone and try to do my part like this, bringing attention and people that I know. In what I have found, like in Ohio, is that in order to have somebody speak on the PPC, you have to have 2 people. At least that's what Brian Mallory said. So that makes it a little difficult, but not impossible. And so, you know what? It would be great to have you back because there's so much.
Yeah, we're down to the last 3 minutes, but
Yeah.
Already. Oh my gosh.
Are you a volunteer, or is there a
Yes.
paid position? Everybody's
No.
sort of no paid positions?
No. As a matter of fact, I funded the campaign in 2017, 2018, 2019 out of my own pocket.
Well,
Because we didn't have a national collection of donations at that point, because Reverend Barber was still launching and trying to grow chapters so that we had a grassroots organization. Now we have, because it's a national organization and our leaders are a known quantity, they're a visible quantity, we have a regular source of funds that come into national, and then national disperses that to each state chapter in order, for example, to get the buses to get the people to DC. So we had 4 buses from DC, from Ohio go to DC from different regions.
So is that basically donations, or?
Yeah, all donations,
Okay,
all private, small, $10, $20 donations.
And there's no government funding?
Nope, none
Oh, by the way,
whatsoever.
before we leave, tell us how people can donate to the Poor People's Campaign.
All they have to do is go to the poorpeoplescampaign.org. They will see a donation button. They will see history. They will see the data that is actually being used, because the poverty markers in the United States are still using numbers from 1965.
Wow.
Which is why our minimum wage is such there's such a huge gap in incomes with regards to inflation, salary, labor costs, we're just not using the right numbers to properly reflect what the true numbers are. The campaign says we have 144 million low wage income
Right.
earners in this country. And if we can get them all to vote, we would be the largest lobby.
Well, yeah. Before we go, I just wanted to let you know that what we're doing with We the World, basically we're a communications arm of them.
Correct.
So what you could do after we get off camera is you and Yana might get together. If we could do a show just based on the Poor People's Campaign.
That would be
And
lovely.
and do a possibly a weekly or a bi-monthly every other 2
Oh, that
weeks
would be so cool, wouldn't it, Claire?
of the
Yeah, it
show.
would. It would. And I would involve the tri-chairs
Yeah.
directly as
So
well. I think they would love having that
you
kind of
guys talk and
content.
come up with a concept because
Oh, I
again,
love this idea, Malcolm.
yeah,
That's a really
I feel like I don't know if you've seen the old Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland movies.
Yes.
Where they're high school kids and they're putting on a play and she has a barn and gee, let's do a show.
Yeah.
This is
Perfect
what I have.
idea.
You have a project. I have the communications arm. Let's do a show on it.
That would
Glad.
be wonderful.
Yeah, on Zoom. So you guys get together. But I thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thank you for
And
inviting
again,
me.
never underestimate what you do. It's very important, as you know, and it's people like you that gives me encouragement of what's going to happen with the world. People who get
Yeah.
involved and are concerned. So again, thank you very much.
A pat on the back. You
Yeah.
deserve it.
And just do
Thank
one
you.
favor, when you get the show, forward it to all your friends and people on
I'll
your
send you out information so
email
you have all
list,
the links.
because
Perfect.
that's
I
the way how
appreciate that.
we advertise.
Awesome.
Yes.
Because we're basically a volunteer organization.
Yes.
Well,
Anyway,
and thank you for accessing what you do because you're giving people a platform.
yeah.
Yes, that's the idea.
Anyway, thank you very much. You're listening to Malcolm and We, heard on malcolmpresents.com. And we'll have another show next week. Who are we having next week? Do you remember?
Michael DiMartino from Earthstock.
Okay. Anyway, guys, have a great week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care.